Welcome to The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lane. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and local advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome your host, Ken Lane.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lane, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. And what I love about this time of year, this leading edge of autumn, is the gardens are they're getting overgrown. They're starting to become they're just I'm tired of picking tomatoes. I don't know what to do with them all. Cucumbers, I've got to come up with another recipe. The harvest is on. Flowers are just robust. They're over the top. Sometimes I just want to take my energy off of that. I'm tired of doing that. I've been doing it for 6 months. This time of year is more of a decoration time of year. So I shift gears some, and many times the garden center, I'll take home a plant and not even plant it. All I'm doing is I'm putting a mum by the front door. I'll put it in the garden later, but I want to enjoy it at the front door. Sometimes I'll inject those into my containers. Now, I love mums. They're beautiful. They're fall. But quite honestly, I don't like them in containers because they're green. They're just green blobs the whole year. And then they start to bloom now and they're spectacular. If they would have that kind of spectacular blossom from spring through autumn, I'd go, yeah, I like that. I'll keep it in the container. Here's a little insider tips, a designer tip that we do at the Lane Casa. We actually we'll take it's almost embarrassed to share this on the airwaves. We take home mums, and we've got a 1 gallon mum. They're pretty nice. They're a foot across. They look pretty robust. And we will put them in our containers not even take them out of the pot. We put the pot inside the container garden so that we fully expect to take it out of there and plant it out in the yard someplace later. But for now, we can plop this thing in there. It's kind of like a mini bouquet that we strategically put into that container garden. And then we'll enjoy it for a couple of months, enjoy it. And then we're going, okay, we know it's only going to be a green blob next year. We don't want you to stay there. We take it out, and then we'll put a pansy in there. We'll put a vinca or something else that keeps us going through the winter. So we're using plants, not necessarily as gardening plants, more of a living bouquet for a temporary show. And then we take it out and go put it out in the garden over there later. So we're using it before we actually plant it. So I don't know if I explained that quite right, but you just take a 1 gallon mum, don't take it out, don't do anything to it. Just take it and use it as like a stopper in your container garden. Just plop it in there, and you fully expect to take it out when it's done, and it'll take the same irrigation, it'll take the same water that all the other plants are doing. But I've got a Taniosho pine. It's this beautiful, like a miniature pine tree. It's got an underplanting. It's like a pom-pom. It's like a pine tree, palm tree. It's got a trunk, and then it's got this beautiful top. But then underneath this big container, it needs some flowers. It needs some color. Well, we just plop a few mums in there, and it looks like it's been growing there forever. We'll enjoy it till about Thanksgiving. We pull those things out, either throw them away, or we put them out there in the garden. Quite honestly, I've got too many mums anymore because I've been doing this for years. And so that's a little insider tip. You don't have to just plant it right away. It doesn't have to go in the ground. You can actually use it by the front door. We love taking hollies. So this is the holly season now through the end of the year. That's like the number one holiday plant. Well, we love hollies. Well, when the front door starts to fade because the cold took out the bacopa and the begonias and all those summer annuals, it looks kind of bare. We'll take home an ivy or a holly or a evergreen azalea. We'll put it right by the front door, and we're not going to plant it. It just stays in the grower's pot right there by the front door. People come and go, oh, we'll even add little kind of twinkle lights to it. We'll decorate it. This is the decoration season. Not necessarily the gardening. You can garden. It's a good time to garden. But if your gardens are full and you still want some more mums, that's a look, kind of an insider way what designers are doing. This is what hotels do. This is kind of how you cheat it and get the beauty, but not have to commit for years of mums in your containers that only look good for 2 months in the fall of the year. I want my containers to look good 12 months out of the year. That's kind of how we rotate plants in and out of our containers. Anyway, that's why I was a little embarrassed to tell you. Sometimes our gardens look better than they really should because they're not gardens; they're floral displays from the garden center. I think we were thinking that a garden center we must put the plants in the ground. No, you don't. You can use them for a while and throw them away. They're just made to be. That's what you East Coast folks do so well. Mums are not a perennial there. They're just made to be used during the pumpkin season. And then you chuck them and you go get something else. Poinsettias take their place. Right now, I am cleaning up the gardens. I'm taking some things out of my actual physical gardens, like flowers and vegetables. And when I pull something out, and I'm not going to put something back in that same spot, what I am doing, I'm taking home some manures or some compost. I really like manure in my vegetable gardens. So I never leave open space in my raised beds or my vegetable gardens, my flower beds. If you leave it open, if the ground is open, a weed will show up. But if you need to go enrich that soil before you plant next March, let's say, March is typically when you're going to go heavy into lettuce and spinach and carrots and all that early spring stuff, but you want to enrich the soil before you do that. Well, there's a gap between now and then. So what I'll do is I'll put some barnyard manure. We've got a deodorized manure that we have at the garden center. It's not stinky, gross, sticky stuff. It actually feels like compost, but it's richer. So I'll when I pull, let's say an alyssum out of the flower garden, I'll put in a 2 to 3 inch layer of barnyard manure in that space. So I don't work it in yet. I just put it on, and so I leave it there. I'm going to turn it in later. So whenever I get my soils ready after the holidays, I'll go ahead and work that in. But for now, I keep it there to help to leach in. It kind of works its way into the soil, but mainly it keeps the weeds out, keeps the bugs out, keeps things out of the garden. If you just pull a plant out and you got exposed soil, you're going to have dandelions and horehound and foxtail and all these other nasty weeds. Don't leave open space in the garden you really care about. So that's just an easy one. For a few bucks, you can keep all the weeds out of your gardens and kind of get ready for the spring soil planting season. Anyway, I don't know why I shared that because, well, I can tell you why. Because that's what I'm doing right now. I just pulled a few flowers out and pulled out a tomato that it was done. It was just tired. It couldn't do it. Hadn't produced a tomato in like 3 or 4 weeks. We went, okay, that's it. You're out of here. Put down a layer of manure. Or compost, if you like compost. So we make a 1/4 inch minus, really great, like a good looking mocha composted bark product. Put a 2-3 inch layer on that, and it will keep the weeds out for sure. It keeps the moisture in. Does a lot of good for your gardens. So take a look at that. Another thing, I don't have enough time to cover that. I've got to cover fertilizing. I just have to. It is the month. This is the most important of the entire year. October is the most important feed of the entire year. Got to cover on that. I'll cover that maybe at the bottom of the hour or later in the show. But I want to do it justice. So right now I can tell you your pine trees, if you've got pines, evergreen trees, bark beetle are a serious problem. Here's a little tiny beetle that burrows its way into the trunk and then eats the plant from the inside out. It decimates entire sections of the forest. This is also the time to treat your evergreens with a tree and shrub drench. There's a liquid product. You mix it in a watering can. You put it right at the base of the plant. The plant absorbs it, and it protects that tree for a year. And it keeps the bark beetle, the aphids, the flathead borers, the tip borers. There's all kinds of things that eat pine trees there. If you're next to the forest, just treat them, or you can lose a majestic evergreen, a 50-foot ponderosa. Have just collapsed. We've seen that this week with people coming in going, we should have treated that 6 weeks ago with tree and shrub drench. That's one thing you do right away in your gardens if you've got nice, majestic evergreens. If you want to keep those evergreens healthy, fertilize them and give them tree and shrub drench. It'll be a game changer. You don't need to hire an arborist for this. You can do this yourself. Arborists are made to trim and shape things. You can treat them yourself, though. Be right back. We got Lisa Waters Lane coming in with your garden questions right after this. Water's October companion plants that grow well together are blaze maples, spicy mums, glamour kale, and burning bush.
Water's compact burning bush is a neat, well-behaved shrub prized for its blazing red foliage in the fall.
Looks great when planted with autumn gold sumacs, lilacs, and gold euonymus.
At 6 foot, this bush makes a natural hedge that burns red through autumn, all for $49.
You'll find the showiest shrubs here at Waters Garden Center.
Siri, give me directions to Waters Garden Center.
You've been listening to The Mountain Gardener with Ken Lane, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join him every week for timely garden advice right for the gardens. Visit Ken where he can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.